Going into the sweat lodge is called touche, which means to go and visit and sit among your grandfathers. And that is the man. They go and visit their grandfathers. When a woman is being taught and she is has come of age, she is taught that her grandmothers will visit her every moon cycle, and there are 13 of them. And so it is very much that 13 has a sacred order in the way that the fundamental law is applied to the lives of our Diné. Att keratan hytte niinku tikat tassten tolle tikhata hodi nihligi ei jähdi haatek hoshinda ei jähdi kat hastiin lingo shi standikat haal now hattaita hammata shidikat handaites akut ei ahada nihlde ado yeset benia hat enigi shidik nenigi told atonne elle nenigi shidi Banza kesa banat na ago shi ya what ya hada hoti nihlde she told dust anako benti ke ta hoil net all that. In the traditional way, when marriages are arranged and maintaining the sacred order, that is the only way that a man and a woman can come together according to the sacred order as a man and as a woman and produce children. There's a law that we call the fundamental law. I don't know if any other people in the world have that fundamental law given to them as a people, but I have looked. But fundamental law tells us that everything that has life or anything that has form, even the universe, had to experience birth. So it is that when life is brought into the third world, it has to experience birth. Not only life, but also other things in the world, that they are in a spirit form before that they are even brought into this existence. And so the Kehni is what they call this fundamental law. And so the order of marriage, the order of becoming a boy, the order of becoming a woman, all of these things are very important. In the ceremony, the sacred ceremony of the boy coming of age, you go in there and you actually go into the sweat lodge 4 times. 3 of those times you sing 4 songs. On the last 4th time that you go in, you only sing 1 song, and then you talk about things that are sacred. And that going into the sweat lodge is called touche, which means to go and visit and sit among your grandfathers. And that is the man. They go and visit their grandfathers. When a woman is being taught and she has come of age, she is taught that her grandmothers will visit her every moon cycle. And there are 13 of them. And so it is very much that 13 has a sacred order in the way that the fundamental law is applied to the lives of our Diné. In the traditional teachings of our people, there are a lot of things in that as we go through our years in this life that are considered to be in compliance with order or sacred order that are set by the holy people. And of the ones that we can discuss openly are such things as the arranged marriage. The arranged marriage is is what they would call it, and that is giving to each other a man and a woman in marriage and in arranged marriage. Now, we don't have that system and practice as much as we used to in the past. There are a lot of things that have changed as far as procedures for marriage. Some are good and some are not so good. But the sacred teaching is that marriage is a sacred order, and it is also the order of the family, the order of raising a family. And so it was between a man and a woman. And so the story, I have heard many, but the one that is, of course, the most interesting to me is that of my father and my mother. And so I have heard the stories from various people, And so the first one, of course, I would ask my dad one time. I said, "When is the first time you ever saw my mom?" Because in the arranged marriages, many times the bride and the groom have no say in when they meet or if there's any dating. But they may see each other for the very first time on the day of the wedding. But my father told me, he says, the first time I saw your mother was at a trading post. She was very young, maybe 12, 13 years old. But already she was very mature. And she was taking care of the business of the purchasing and all of that was taking place between the trader and her relatives. But he noticed her, and he observed her from a distance, and he was smitten, is what you'd have to say. But he fell in love. And so he took several years to finish his education and to work at various places and participate in rodeos and everything else. And then one day he decided he would go and find her. So he knew where her family lived, and that was about 10 miles away. So he would ride some of his favorite horses over there on occasion. And so he did have race horses, and he had roping horses, and just good riding quarter horses. And that was his interest. And so he would ride his horse out to where my mother was herding sheep, and she was just a girl. And he would sit on the horse, and she would be herding sheep, and they would talk. But the family got word of this, and they made arrangements to chase this young man away and say, "Don't bother that girl." And so he tried to be obedient as best he could, but he would still sneak over and visit her while she was herding sheep. And then it came time that he decided, well, we'll go the traditional way. So he consulted with his uncle and his mother, and he asked them to make this arrangement for marriage to this young lady. And so his uncle and mother went to my mother's relatives and proposed this marriage. But my mother's folks were very aware of this young man. They considered him not suited for this young lady because he didn't know any of the ceremonies in their entirety, and his interests lay other places other than really understanding and living the traditional ways. And the thing that they did was they made the dowry very high. Something in the neighborhood of 10 horses, 15 head of cattle, 20 to 25 head of sheep, goats, maybe a couple of saddles and some concho belts and some turquoise necklaces and so on. And it was something that a wealthy man would even be challenged to give the family. But they underestimated my father, because in all of this, where my dad grew up and what environment he grew up in, he had acquired many friends in rodeoing and all the different jobs and places that he had worked as a young man. And so he put out the word, and all of these friends came forward, and they helped him meet the required dowry that my mother's relatives had given. And so they eventually got all the material together, and they went and gave them to my mother's relatives. But arrangements was made for the wedding and the marriage, and they were together for over 70 years. And they raised 13 children, most all of them very successful in various careers. And they did the best they could, and my father constantly worked to support his family. And he was very successful. My mother, of course, was a very great woman. And they worked together. They worked together very well. And they were together for all those years. And when I remember my father, the day before he passed away, it was that he asked my sisters, he said, "Go and saddle a horse for me. Go saddle that, my favorite horse." And he put on his best clothes and he went out to the corral and he says, I'm not going to ride anywhere. I just want to sit here. And so they helped him up onto the horse and he sat on that saddle and for several hours. And then finally he got down and he went back into the house. It was evening by that time, and that night he passed away in his sleep. So I often wonder, what did my dad think of when he was sitting on that horse in that corral? To me, I always think he would think of his younger days when he would visit this young girl. And he would talk things of interest to her, and they would discuss these things because my mother had not been 50 miles away from the place he was born and raised. But my father had traveled extensively working on the railroad out into many of the western states. But I often think that he would share with her some of his adventures in these far distant places. And that would be some of the things he would be thinking about for that last time when he was sitting on that horse in that corral. And I shared these things, and also, along with that, the things that I was told.
Hey, thanks for watching our videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Okay.